What a bloodless way to talk about such an important public policy issue. To use the motion to proceed, and very few people to realize, to simply get a bill on the Senate floor, we have to vote on a motion to proceed on whether we're going to take it up. And because this is now going to require a 60-vote majority because of the invocation of this fog of filibuster, we can't even get to a majority vote on how to make sure women get equal pay for equal work. No wonder people are fed up with us. They wonder about us why, when all is said and done, why more gets said than gets done. I travel in the state of Maryland, in the United States of America. People want us to do our job, to work on a bipartisan basis, hands across the aisle, work across the dome to solve national problems. We heard this morning the talk about the economy. You know, one way to help the economy is for people to make more money. You know what's one of the best ways to make more money? Pay women for equal pay for equal work. And also enforce the law, the Equal Pay Act that was passed in 1963. But we haven't been able to do it for several reasons. And this is what the Paycheck Fairness Bill deals with. Right now, there is a veil of secrecy in businesses all over America, a veil of secrecy about the fact that you cannot ask a fellow employee what they're making. You're not supposed to talk about your salary. You can talk about anything, but you can't talk about what the person next to you is making. The second thing is if you in any way, particularly if you're a woman, try to speak up for your rights to get equal pay for the same job, same pay, same job, you're often retaliated against. And then businesses come up with lots of loopholes, which are bad. They use business explanations as bad excuses to avoid paying equal pay for equal work. Now, we want to pass this legislation to end the retaliation, close the loopholes, and lift the veil of secrecy. This, in many ways, will give American women not a raise, but give what justice demands. Now, I'm here this morning to keep up the momentum in which we've been able to do in this Senate. I'm very proud of the fact that since in 2009, we passed the Lilly Ledbetter Act, which opened up the courthouse doors to women. And now, as we continue 5 years later of listening to stories, terrible stories about what's happened. There was a Carrie Sleeman, a mechanical engineer in Michigan, that was told that men had to be paid more in her company because they were breadwinners. She was a mechanical engineer doing the same job. Latoya Weaver, a Marylander who wrote me, learned that the males at the hotel which she worked were being paid $2 more an hour than she, which meant $2 more, which meant a total of several $100s a year. We want to end that discrimination. No retaliation, no loopholes, no veil of secrecy. This has been going on a long time, Mr. President. In 1964, President Lyndon Johnson, as part of the great civil rights movement that's sweeping our country, wanted to pass 3 civil rights bills: the Equal Pay Act, the Civil Rights Act, and the Voting Rights Act. He started with the Equal Pay Act because he thought it would be the easiest to pass and the easiest to enforce. 50 years later, we're still fighting the battles on all 3 of those legislations, and today we're talking about equal pay. Right now, women are an emerging force in the workplace. Way back in the 1950s, only 11% of the women were in the workplace, though many had been there during World War II as Rosies and kept their economy going. Now, they are the breadwinners. 40% of the households are really breadwinners. women make up 40% of the households in which she is the head of the house or the breadwinner. And it's time to make the labor market reflect these, but most of all, the pay market. When the Equal Pay Act was signed in 1963, guess what women made? 59 cents for every dollar men made. Everybody said, we've got to fight that. 50 years later, now women make 77 cents for every dollar. Over a 50-year period, we closed the gap by 18 cents. Now, what do you think about that? I think that's pretty unjust. I don't think it's even American. I thought, we like to say, if you work hard and play by the rules, America will work for you. Well, women work hard, they play by the rules, and yet they work, but America doesn't work for them. And for women of color, it's even worse. If you're an African-American woman, you earn 64 cents. If you're a Hispanic woman, you earn 54 cents. You like to hear, oh, you've come a long way. But I don't think we've come a long way with 18 cents improvement in a 50-year period. Who in this room thinks that earning 1 cent more every 5 years counts as coming a long way? Maybe if we made 1 cent more every year since 1964, we wouldn't have think it's so terrific. My constituents don't go for this, either men or women. Women want to stand up for their rights, and men want to stand up for the women they love. There are men all over this country right this minute who are at jobs they hate so that their daughters could have the job they love, working hard so that they can help them go to school, get the education, get the skills to be able to take care of themselves, This is why they've spoken up for dads. Every week and every month as families sit down to pay the bill, and husbands are looking at their wives and are saying, tell me about the pay. It doesn't seem right. I heard that George is making. I hear that Tom is making. Well, what about us? So men are outraged about this too. They see it as a fundamental fairness issue. They see it as a fundamental justice issue. And guess what? It is a family pocketbook issue. We want change, and we want change today by voting for this bill. This way we will change the federal law books so we can help change the family checkbooks. This bill, as I said, will close the loopholes in the law which allows pay discrimination to continue to occur. I'll repeat, paycheck secrecy, making it harder to uncover pay differences. It's hard to fight when you're prohibited from even talking about it. Businesses are under a gag rule. Then there's the retaliation, and then there's the loopholes. The Paycheck Fairness Act is quite simple. When we say that, and they say, well, didn't you deal with this with Lilly Ledbetter? Well, Lilly Ledbetter dealt with the statute of limitations. What this bill is deal with other issues. No longer can workers be retaliated against for sharing wages. For years, Lilly, and she tells her own story, but she's the story of many, was harassed and humiliated for asking questions about co-workers' salaries. She found out that the guys were making more because of an anonymous note that was sent to her. Somewhere in the vast corporation of Goodyear, for whom she worked, a contractor, a federal contractor, by the way, there was somebody, probably a wonderful man who worked with her, who wanted to help her out and told her. But then she went on to try to do something. Well, guess what? She faced retaliation. First, she faced verbal harassment. She faced threats to her very safety. She faced sexual intimidation. She really got it thrown right back in her face, and every day became a torture in the workplace, but she pressed on. That happens to women all over America. Now, the other thing is, and we can't allow that. When you stand up for your rights in America, you shouldn't be harassed. There's much said about the First Amendment. Yes, There's much said about the Second Amendment, the right to carry a gun. Women would like to be able to carry a law, to be able to fight for themselves. No longer will employers also to be able to use just any reason to justify paying a woman less. Oh, he's a breadwinner. Oh, they do a harder job. Well, when you talk to Carrie's, the mechanical engineer, they were doing the same job. In fact, in some instances, she was the actual supervisor. For LaToya, working in the hotel, they were doing exactly the same job, and the EEOC verified that. So this is why it's important. Now, the other thing is that no longer will women be limited just to back pay. They will be able to get punitive damages. Because in many businesses, when they're caught and the current law catches up with them, they just pay a fine and see it as the cost of doing business. Well, that's not fine with us. We want to make sure that if you feel that if you have suffered these injustices, you will be able to seek grievance through punitive damages. And no longer will women be on their own. The consequences of the pay gap are significant. Let's take a college degree, a woman who's had the benefit of an education. For women between 25 and 29, the annual pay gap now is about $1,700 a year. For a woman closer to the retirement age, it's more like $14,000 a year. Over a lifetime, for many women, it's $400,000 a year. This has enormous consequences. When you are paid less, it affects not only your paycheck that you take home, but it will affect your retirement because Social Security is pegged to earnings. So when you pay women less, you're going to get less in retirement. This is not fair. Now, I'll tell you what I'm tired of hearing, that somehow or another we're too emotional when we talk. You know, when we raise an issue, we're too emotional. Well, I am emotional. I am so emotional about this. I am telling you, if we don't pass this bill, I'm so emotional, I'm going to press on. It brings tears to my eyes to know how women every single day are working so hard and are getting paid less. It makes me emotional to hear that. Then when I hear all of these phony reasons, some are mean and some are meaningless, I do get emotional. I get angry, I get outraged, I get volcanic. And the way I'm going to challenge my emotions is by helping everything that we can do to be able to pass this bill. Now, there are those who say this is a lawyer's dream. It's not a lawyer's dream, it's a family's dream. Now, if they're afraid of lawsuits, they ought to follow the law. The best way not to have a lawsuit is to follow the law. So if you retaliate against a worker, don't retaliate, because if you do retaliate, you're going to have to pay up. If you have loopholes that are mean or meaningless, yes, that employee might sue, but guess what? The way to avoid the lawsuit is don't be mean, don't be cruel, don't be unfair, don't be unjust, and if you think we're emotional, wait till you see what happens if this bill fails. We're pretty emotional about this. So, Madam President, you and I have talked about this, whether it's in North Dakota or North Baltimore. We feel the same, that when you work hard, play by the rules, do the same job, you want the same pay. American women need a fair shot at equal pay for equal work, the same pay for the same job. And we need to pass this legislation today. Let's pass the motion to proceed so that we can get actually on the bill to discuss, offer amendments. There are those I know who have other ideas and suggestions. We look forward to that. And then at the end of the day and the end of the week, let's pass. Madam President, I think that today is the day that's a reckoning on do you want equal pay for equal work? And I want men and women all across America to be emotional about it. I yield the floor.